Hello, everybody, and welcome to our pre-show ahead of the PCS playoffs here. We have today joining me is Chawy. He was the translator for us in the summer of last year, and now he is one of the commentators over on the main Mandarin-speaking channel for the PCS. And how are you doing today, Chawy? It's nice to have you here.
Doing pretty well. Yep.
Oh, awesome. So
Go ahead.
I want to
Yeah.
first ask you, what is sort of the opinions that you guys over in Taiwan have on the league? Because here specifically, we've been obviously very impressed by DCG and sort of how these group of young players, ChrisKarta as well, swapping from AD carry to mid. Meta suits him admittedly, and how they've really risen up. No one came into this split thinking DCG are going to come out second. Straight into that, spot in the second stage of playoffs. Everyone kind of had, PSG, Talon, CFO, probably the teams. But what is sort of the thoughts that you guys have over there in Taiwan?
I think for us, at the beginning of the split, everyone thought like PSG and CFO would be the two strongest teams, and then maybe FAK, DCG. But I think the meta changes and how things goes, CFO somehow didn't manage to perform up to expectations, and also because there was a lot of experienced players in the same team, so maybe there's some conflicts going on that we don't know about. It happens a lot when you create an all-star team. So and then PSG, I think they perform much better than how everyone expected, because they were playing more as a team, and then also Archie and Woody used to play. They used to have a lot of mistakes in games, causing the games. But I think during the split, they somehow just evolved into a new player, and then right now PSG, there's not much of a weakness you can find. And then about DCG, I think everyone, even us, we were quite shocked at how well they perform, because they also used to have players who make a lot of mistakes in game, rookie mistakes, that will cost the game. So somehow this split also, they just evolved, and then there was not so much of the mistakes, and then everyone started playing as a team. And also, I think this split, they played really, really well because also of the meta changes. So like ChrisKarta, he used to play marksman, so right now it's marksman mid lane, so he's performing out of his mind.
Absolutely. I think we're very much on a similar opinion there. I think right now is just the perfect meta for ChrisKarta, right? Like, just comes from, as you said, the marksman role. And he was one of the better marksmen, looking back to 2023. He was just performing very, very well in that year. And now he's come to the mid lane, last split as well. He looked really good. Starting off the split, playing Hui and Azir was his first two mid laners he played. He looked really good on that. But now he just gets to play mid with 80 carries, and it's just like, this guy is insane. The only lane that I even remember him coming remotely close to losing was against Maple in the PSG Talon versus the DCG games. And that's, if you're only losing to Maple, you can't really complain about that. Maple is just such an insane player. He's been playing since season 5. It's like, fair enough, you're losing to Maple, but other than that, he's looked really, really strong. I want to also ask you about, I guess, some of the matchups, right? Because we've got the 4 PCS teams in the first round of the playoffs. So we've got West Point, J-Team, CFO, and Frank Esports. Do you think it's going to be 2 of the PCS teams? And I guess, for my opinion, I expect that Frank and CFO should make it out of the group stage. I don't have the same amount of confidence for J-Team and West Point. I think DFM probably, you'd look at them as possibly the other team making it out. You could also argue Ground Zero, who over in the LCO had a nearly undefeated split. They dropped a singular game over the course of the split. Do you think, though, it's going to just be 3 straight PCS teams, or do you think there's going to be DFM? Do you think maybe Ground Zero can get across the line?
I think I agree with your point, which is I think CFO and FAK should be able to win the games, but J-Team and WP, I think currently their condition is not very good. And also agree, like LCO teams and LJL teams should be able to take them down pretty easily.
Yeah.
But currently, right now, we have an issue where we feel like CFO condition is not that great. So maybe they will lose games to LJL teams, because LJL teams, they performed really well last split during the playoffs.
Yeah, I agree, right? Like, looking back to last split, it was kind of like everyone's expecting PSG Talon versus CFO in that grand finals. And it looked like it should have been that until we got to, there was a 3-0 series, PSG Talon winning that. CFO then going into the lower bracket against SoftBank and getting 3-0'd again. And it was like, wow, that's like, it was like a kind of a collapse. And we've sort of seen that now from CFO in the regular season, because they started off this split looking extremely strong. Like, they didn't look like they had many mistakes. They were doing very well. And as the second part of the season, as the very end of the first round robin and the second round robin happened, they really struggled to find a win in almost all of their games, which is a concern. But it is also maybe a good thing that now it's happened before the playoffs, right? So now they have the time to fix those mistakes and try and go into this playoffs looking stronger, because ultimately now you have to get second. And while MSI, everyone loves watching MSI and it's very important, I think it's Worlds that everyone wants to contend for, right? Worlds is that big, big thing where if you win Worlds, if you do well at Worlds, everyone's got their eyes on you. And so I think CFO have the chance to fix their mistakes and look for a good run here in the playoffs.
Yeah, I agree. I think CFO, because to us, I think CFO is an all-star team. So they have a lot of experienced players like Karsa, Soda, who have really great achievements. Like Karsa in LPL, he has won a lot of LPL championships, and Soda was runner-up in one of the worlds.
Yeah.
So they are very accomplished players. And I think the issue with CFO, like I said before, was there's too many experienced players in one team. So even in their own videos, CFO videos, they spoke out about it, which is there's so many different ways they want to play the game, and no one is willing to play to the other person's opinion.
Right.
So I think it happens in an all-star team. Yeah. So hopefully we see them bounce back, because we really like Karsa and Soda. They have been like in the Taiwanese scene for a long time.
Yeah, kind of all-stars when it comes to Taiwanese players, right? Like, you think of the best Taiwanese players of all time. You can look back as far as TPA if you want to go that far back, but then like going forward from TPA, I mean, there's, Fofo, Doggo, and then you've got pretty much the entirety of this PSG Talon lineup, especially Maple and Betty, and then Sword Art and Karsa. Those are like the biggest names coming out of Taiwan, and just, LMS, PCS in general. They're the guys you look up to, and it is disheartening to see them do so poorly. But I think this round in the playoffs, I think they've definitely should be able to make it, a 2-0 against Sengoku, and then probably I think Ground Zero should beat J-Team, and I think CFO should probably just 2-0 Ground Zero after that as well. And then from that point, they're probably going to have a fairly easy run for the start of the second round too, because DCG probably never going to be picking CFO as their team to go up against in that first round of the second stage. It would be pretty crazy if they did. One thing I want to ask you, because I think Lo and myself, here at the English side of the PCS, recently, there's been obviously, I talk about DCG a lot, but it is just the most fun team for me to watch. I love watching them. I love their drafts. They're so fun. And back onto that draft point, their most recent series against PSG, how much fun were you guys having over in Taiwan? Because when I saw the team composition of Kalista mid with a Mumu jungle, I was so excited to see them bring out something like that, and it looked phenomenal.
Yeah, so during that game, I was also casting, so I was really hyped for it.
Yeah.
And I think all the viewers were very, very hyped for it, because we knew they will smash 2-0 the week before, and then they were back for revenge. And the last time they faced PSG, they lost to Lucian mid.
Yeah.
Maple Lucian mid totally destroyed ChrisKarta. So we were thinking so for DCG, should they ban Lucian and they get a better draft? And then the answer was no, we are not going to ban Lucian. We actually prepared 3 more champions to play against Lucian. And it worked out.
Yeah.
I mean, the Draven mid, although he lost, but that was crazy. Like Draven mid, Caitlyn mid, Kalista mid. So it was so insane. And I agree, the Kalista Amumu combo was something that no one expected. So it was very hyped. Like the Amumu with 2 kills, there's so many ways for you to engage.
Yeah.
Especially with the Kalista. So it was very, very insane to watch. I believe everyone was also very hyped to watch that game.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think on that note as well, it's like DCG are now just having a Mumu banned against them. I think going into playoffs, like it's something that you're going to have, every team, if you're going up against DCG, it's in the back of your mind now, right? If you're on red side against DCG, you're kind of having to ban Rumble, and then maybe you're also going to have to ban a Mumu. And then it's like, wow, you have one ban left to try and find something in that first set of like rotation of pick bans, and that is very difficult to navigate. If you're just forced to ban a Mumu, or you're going to have to try find a counter. But how the meta is right now, Amumu is just a very good champion. It does well into AD carries. It does well into a mobile mages. Well, that's the entire team comp. You've got an AP jungler. You've got 3 or 2 AD carries. It's like, well, now what are we doing about this Amumu champ other than ban it? I think it's very intelligent drafting out of DCG, and it's a really good sign. The only criticism I really have for DCG, and you can tell me if you guys also have the same opinion, is often they find a lot of strength in obviously ChrisKarta and in 665, but also their bot side. And Taco tends to make a few too many mistakes, I feel, while playing on the weak side of the map. I feel like there's times where he's staying at his tower and dies to a very obvious dive where he could have just backed off, like, 10 seconds earlier and foregone 2-3 minions worth of XP, but survived. And it's something, especially when you get to playoffs, you're going to be against the likes of Evie, you're going to be against Archer, you're going to be against Driver or Rest. You can't afford to make those mistakes so consistently, and I'm really hoping that DCG fix that. But do you guys have the same opinion, or do you think his deaths are kind of justified?
I think there's a very mixed opinion about this, because I think everyone can see that he's dying a lot at top side, but also somehow DCG made it to the second place in PCS. So somehow it worked, and I think the thing about Taco is he always makes a lot of mistakes, like pre-15 minutes. But during late game, he somehow managed to come back. So I think that's his strength. And I also agree, like, he has to fix his early games issue. I think the biggest issue is his coordination with the jungle. Because usually there's like big wave coming in, and then he get dove, and then he lose. So even if he doesn't get dove, he still lose out a lot. So I think this is the situation where you have to coordinate with your mid and jungle that, okay, there's a big wave coming in. I need help in the next wave. Can you guys come? I think this is something that DCG is not doing pretty well. That's why they're also sacrificing Taco too much.
Yeah.
So I think it's not mainly his fault. It's just the way DCG plays. But somehow, like I said, they managed to get second place in PCS. So maybe it works for them.
Yeah, I guess usually you notice like Taco's getting dove in his top side, but they've also just got 4 people diving the other team's bot lane. That's like tends to be something that happens quite often with DCG. And I really do enjoy watching that team. I think the only problem can come, and it has, this is like where their main struggles have been, is when they're trying to do the same thing, but against PSG Talon. We've seen them try that. Taco's getting dove top by Junja and Arja. Meanwhile, 665, Orca, and Feng are trying to dive bot side, but it's Betty who walks out with 2 or 3 kills from their tower dive. And it's like, you got to obviously make sure if you're sacrificing top that you're getting what you need bot. And they do that against pretty much everyone. The only time they have struggled is PSG Talon, which again, you can't really complain too much. They are just such a good team. Now, I guess we should briefly touch on Frank as well, because I think Frank, ultimately, I have them as sort of the dark horse, where you're not going in expecting them to make it to Worlds, but you look at everyone on their team and if they're having a good day, that they are just a best or second best team in the region. If Jimmy's playing well, or Pretender, whoever they use. Wako, I mean, that guy is insane at AD carry when he's given resources. Kaiwings engages, mental. We just saw Gemini solo kill a top lane at level 4 last game they played. It's like so much is going on. And Yi Zhang, by the way, he is so fun to watch. Like, this team is insane. If they are all playing to the level they can, I think they are truly great contenders for being able to go to Worlds, but they've struggled this split, I think, to find that consistency. And so what is your opinion? Do you think they have a legitimate shot at going to Worlds, or do you think there's just not quite the cohesion there?
I think Frank is a team that I know very, very well, because most of the players I've coached them before.
Yeah.
And also I agree with what you said, which is they are all very, very talented and experienced players, like Gemini, Kaiwing, even Wako. So I think the issue with them right now, which I've brought up in the casting a lot, which is they swap their mid laners too often.
Okay.
So the issue is that it's been a year and they are still doing it. I think even last year they were doing it. And that's something that is hurting them because right now I feel like there's not much difference between the mid laners. There's no one that's more outstanding than the other, and they play pretty much the same champion pool. But to be able to play as a top team, you should have the enough practice. So let's say you have 6 scrims a day, and you have 2 mid laners, and you always split them half. So each of them only get 3 scrims a day, which is very, very little, it is too little for a professional team. So their coordination with the team somehow doesn't get to the peak level. And it's just sad to see because we also agree that Frank should be contesting for the second place position because they have the best players out there. But somehow this split, they have been pretty disappointing.
Yeah.
So hopefully they can come back soon and then maybe surprise us during playoffs.
Yeah, I hope so too. They're also like, honestly, I keep saying, I said it about DCG, I said it about PSG, but they are just such a fun team to watch as well. And I especially like one thing I really want to see is Yi Jiang get some freedom to play some more exciting picks, because I actually quite often tune into his stream. I really enjoy watching him play solo queue. And when he plays solo queue, he's not playing like Cassante and stuff. He's locking in Aurelia. He's playing Riven. He's playing, all these Camille's and stuff like that. And he does very, very well. And I know it's hard to get away with those champions in a competitive environment. People can just play around them a lot better. I think there are certainly some games where you could probably commit to giving him some resources, have some freedom to pick something that he can just carry on, because we've seen it on his Aatrox, if you remember back to spring. There were games that they only won because of Yi Jiang's Aatrox. They were pretty far behind. He would solo kill Driver and then just run away with the game. It's he can carry when given the chance to, and this split in particular, he hasn't really been given that freedom. So I hope into playoffs, and particularly when they're against a team like their first round, they're against Team Bliss, I hope he's given the freedom to pick some more fun, exciting sort of bruiser champions. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, but of course. I think when Yi Jiang first came out, everyone was like, that's the best rookie, that came out, because he had the mechanics and he loved playing like Fiora, Camille, this kind of champions, which he could solo carry the game. I think last split he proved that he could. He was one of the best top, if not the best top laner last split.
Yeah.
And for a rookie player, that is something that is very, very huge. So I agree. I'm not sure what's going on in Frank Esports, because they changed him to playing tanks, playing frontline. But also he did say in his stream that he wants to play more champions. He wants to be more versatile. So maybe this year is something that he wants to try out, practice more champions, maybe prepare for next year, because he doesn't want to be a player that can only play Fiora, Camille, Aatrox. So he wants to have more champion pool. So maybe that's something, his target for himself.
Yeah, that is kind of cool as well, right? Because I think when I think back on Frank Esports, that's kind of been a tradition for Frank Esports, as their top lane has been a very mechanically skilled, loves playing these fighting bruiser champions. Solo Kill was the exact same, YSKM the exact same. So it's pretty cool that he is rookie split, and his main focus is extending his champion pool to beyond solo queue picks, because I think maybe in the immediate future, not going to see the same results as possible, but definitely for the longevity of his career, it's going to bode well for when, there's metas where you just can't pick these cool champions, where you're just forced into playing Ornn versus Shen or Ornn versus Mundo, these very mundane, boring tanks that you just have to do because that's what the meta requires. So I think that's very cool. One question I also have for you is, I guess honestly, this might be the most important question. This is going to sort of see if we have differing opinions between the English cast and the Taiwanese cast. Now, who do you think are the two teams that are going to Worlds? I think we can both definitely agree on one of the teams, but who would be your second pick?
All right, so I haven't been watching too much other region, like LCO, LJL, but I believe the LJL will have something prepared for us.
Yeah.
Because the thing about PCS is right now there's an issue where PSG is stomping on every other team. So I do hope it's still PCS team, but I also hope that LJL do well, even LCO, because that would be very good for the ecosystem. And seeing last split, I really hope like LJL do prove us wrong and try to get that second ticket to Worlds.
Yeah. Do you think, well, I guess it would probably be, you can tell me if I'm wrong, but I assume your next pick would be someone, I mean, it's obviously going to be between DCG CFO and Frank Esports. Who do you think out of those three would be, if you were going to choose a PCS team, which one do you think you would choose as that second seed? Or like, who do you think has what it takes to get through the playoffs and make it to that finals?
I think I personally would support CFO, but looking at the current results, I think I have to go with DCG because the way they are improving their ban picks, I think it's going to create a lot of issues to other teams. Like, how are you going to ban against this team? You know, they have like the most insane champion pool. They play the weirdest stuff. So, and although CFO have the most talented players, but they are facing some issues themselves. So, I'm not sure if they can fix it in such a short amount of time. So I'm going for DCG, and I believe the Taiwanese region is like hoping DCG go to Worlds because their games, even though they lose, is exciting. You know, from the ban picks, from the way they play, they're never afraid to go into a fight. So I think most of us are supporting DCG.
Okay, yeah, that's good. It seems like good League of Legends is a universal language because myself and Lo are also of the opinion that it should, well, we want it to be DCG as that second spot. Honestly, because they have just played better than every other PCS team during the regular season. Now that could change, you know, during playoffs. They are, again, a young roster, and yeah, they're looking very, very good, but nerves do come into play and sort of, you know, as you go through the marathon that becomes these playoffs, it can get harder and harder to go through that fatigue, which is where people like Kasa and Sword Art, with how much they've experienced in their illustrious careers, you know, in the LPL, in Worlds, and every international competition, might have the edge over them. But I completely agree. I think, like, if you think back to last Worlds, you know, Team BDS, they were so exciting. Everyone loved watching them because of that pick ban phase. DCG is just BDS, but from the PCS region, you know, like a different take on it. You know, now it's coming through the mid and the jungle, but it is so very exciting to watch. And I think, honestly, it would catch a lot of teams off guard at the World Championships having to go against a team like DCG. So we are of the same opinion, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, I think what you said is pretty true, which is everyone loves a good League of Legends, right? Which is why everyone from around the region support VCS, support LJL, because they come up with special picks like Hammerdinger or whatever. Nocturne 4 minutes level 6, you know. This kind of strategies is what we want to see, not the boring League of Legends. And I think even in PCS it's pretty boring, like the meta, and then DCG came up with all kind of different strategies. And then it's like they burn the passion, they lit the passion up for everyone. Like, oh my god, League of Legends is so fun again, you know. So I agree, like everyone just wants to watch good League of Legends.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay, I have one last question for you, Chawy, and then I'll let you go. I'm sure you're a busy man. If you had to crown a regular season MVP, who would you give it to and why?
Regular season, I would give to PSG Junjia.
Okay, yep.
I think he has been performing out of his mind. Like all the games that PSG win or lose, he has been performing. And I think in the beginning of the year, he wasn't that stable. He makes some rookie mistakes, but I think this split, he's been playing out of his mind.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think it's always going to be someone on PSG. I think the obvious choices are between Arja, Junja, and Woody, right? Those are the three that have honestly improved the most and just really destroyed their laning counterparts. So yeah, I mean, exciting times. I hope you're excited for the PCS playoffs, as excited as we are. And it's been awesome talking to you, Chawy. Thank you so much for joining us. And hopefully we get to work alongside each other in the near future.
Sure. Thank you very much for having me, Ben.